Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome to The Crew 2. And remember, The Crew 2 is a video game. Don't go doing crazy stuff in real life. Today, I will be playing a racing game. As such, I don't think I have quite so much to say as, if I were to do this alone. So I brought along a friend. Say hello, friend.
Hello.
And your name?
Oh, some call me Joe, and my username is Great Joe. Hi.
Welcome, Great Joe. So,
Yeah.
welcome to The Crew 2.
Well, I feel welcome already. All these lines are very friendly.
Yep. So, right now you're seeing live contracts, which get you CC reward if you fulfill them. And CC is one of the two currencies, the other being bitcoins, I guess. You can see it in the upper right there, underneath my followers. And this, by the way, is my home. It's fancy because I've done basically everything in the game, and it doesn't let you start with a fresh account. But we're not really missing anything. I mean, come on. This is a racing game. The plot is, be a good racer.
Oh. So, there's no very well rendered CGI cutscenes of you taking down a thing?
No, not really. There's no dead brother or anything like there was in The Crew 1. You're just...
This place is huge.
Yeah. And, like I said, this is the Icon house. It's only this good once you've reached Icon level 1. I'm at 128 right now in this video. Here's my giant-ass bed. Oh, this is where I can customize my avatar. P-layer.
Of course, gotta get your self-actualization going on.
Mm-hmm. So none of the avatars have any hair. You always have to be wearing a beanie or a baseball cap because most of the time you're in a helmet anyway. They didn't care enough to render different hairstyles. And on this floor, aside from the bed, you can see the three main ways of getting around. Your three chosen preferred vehicles. One for land, one for air, and one for sea.
That's fair enough.
I've actually got a whole lot more where these come from. But yes, my preferred airplane is a P-51 Mustang.
Those things are hell to fly.
They're really fast, though.
Yeah?
Oh, and this is my little kitchen nook.
Oh, man. Can't wait to make me a stew. Wait. It kind of looked like your top oven was situated within a refrigerator.
Nah, I think there's just a separate refrigerator there somewhere. But, yeah, so my preferred vehicle there is an Indian Scout. And let's go to another floor. This is my garage floor, full of land vehicles.
This is frankly decadent.
Yes, it is.
I just can't get over how much this game is trying to sell you on the fantasy of living the lifestyle.
Yeah, like I don't think there's any driver in the world who could quite afford this. Even the ones who are paid millions.
Well, if you're earning enough to afford this setup that you don't have the time available to spend at all there,
Well, anyway. Neat ceiling.
Ooh. You know, there's never enough attention paid to a place's ceiling.
Mm-hmm. And over here we have a first generation Ford Mustang.
Oh man. Oh, look at that.
I mean, technically this is a rebuild by Shelley, a GT500.
Hmm?
But that's still a Ford Mustang. And over here we have a Red Bull style Formula One car. Also, you can totally get inside this thing and play with the windows. And the lights.
Of course.
Yeah, there is a first-person view when you're driving, but you don't get to look all around the cockpit quite so much as you can while you're in the garage here.
Oh no.
You can see the 4-speed transmission there.
This is...
And of course I made sure to get a green one, because that's the color of Bullitt's car.
Oh yeah, wasn't that the color of the Bullitt car?
That's what I said.
Oh shit.
Anyway, there are 2 more floors to this, but I don't know, I think it's time to get some racing. Alright, before that, this is the map. That's home. And you can zoom out pretty far. And the blue stars are personal records for this region. This is where I had the longest ground drift, where I had the fastest driving or water speed. And the triangles here are special activities. But when they're flashing, it means I've never done them. And the boxes with the circles in them, that's camera. It means I took a particularly nice photo in this spot. And you can use any of these spots for fast travel, by the way. Oh, and here we have the street racing headquarters. This is Los Angeles, by the way. And this is an event. They come in 4 different colors because there are 4 disciplines. Street racing, freestyle, off-roading, and professional racing. And the 3 boxes underneath each event are for different challenge levels. Oh hey, look at that. Looks like there are some street races I've never done before. Which is interesting because before I started this I made sure to do everything. Which means that between then and starting this recording, the game has added several more street races.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's consistently does that. Of course, this is the global map, or, well, the US map, which is not exactly to scale.
The entire globe, as we know.
Yeah, it's not exactly to scale, you might have noticed.
Oh yeah, I noticed that that Chicago is the size of all of Illinois.
Yeah, and located in what should be Wisconsin.
That's just how you do.
And also down here we have Miami, which is all of Florida, or at least the right half of it. So yeah, not everything's to scale. And by the way, interesting note, there are 2 established homes that you can visit, and then there's this, which looks exactly like your established home, and it's in New York, which doesn't have one. The other 2 are in Los Angeles and Miami, but then there's this. It mysteriously exists, and yet doesn't exist.
I have no words.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you were there all along.
Oh yes, other note is that you can switch between several events that sometimes start at the same location. That's important to know if you ever decide to play the game, you and the viewers at home. And by pressing start, you can look through your vehicle inventory, which I am doing right now. We'll be taking a closer look at most of these later on. But for right now, I just wanted to give you guys a general overview of all of the cars, bikes, planes, and the helicopter, which I happen to own. Also, from here, you can select it from the map, but it's much more convenient to select your activities from this menu here. So you can see them nice and categorized. You've even got the skills, which were those triangles from earlier, and photo opportunities. But why not start with the basics? Street racing. There's actually quite a few of them.
I love the idea of street racing having an HQ.
And hell, I've never done these before. Why not do them with you guys? Let's all see what this is like the first time. Also, you'll note that I can only do this on normal difficulty, because I've never played this before. Only after you win at normal can you play the next level up, which is difficult. And after that, the third level is called Ace. This here is my main street car, a Porsche 911.
3, 2, 1.
And off we go. So, every car has a performance level, which is just sort of a number between 0 and whatever the max is for the discipline. In this case, I think it's like 260. And when you win events, you get a bunch of better parts that you can put in your car, or your whatever it happens to be. And that makes the numbers go up. So right now...
I do love it when numbers go up.
Yeah. Right now, I've got a Porsche 911 that happens to be maxed out for this discipline. And that happens to mean that my car goes a hell of a lot faster than anything else I'm up against, because each race also has a performance level attached to it. And this one was in like 150 or so. So that's why I left everybody in the rearview mirror immediately, and they have no chance of beating me, even though this is my first time on this race.
This is... Well, this is very familiar.
Oh?
Well, mostly just having nobody in front. It's just a common sight when I'm playing these.
Yeah. I should add that I have been finishing the Ace difficulty for all of the street races, because at Ace, the minimum performance level recommended, you can do this with any kind of car, but the recommended performance level is maxed out, which means that all of the vehicles you go against are also maxed out, and the AI is doing its best to win.
As opposed to now, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I believe there is more rubber banding on normal than there is on Ace.
So I'm guessing this is just for illustration.
Well, it's because, like I said, I have never done this before, and I might as well start with my best car.
Alright.
By the way, do you hear that music?
Yeah, that I do.
That's from Fable. I've turned off the radio, you saw it earlier, and so now I've been adding music manually.
Oh.
And as usual for these videos, I will be crediting the music I use in the description for the video.
They're nice tunes.
Alright, and as you saw, I got 3 new parts. They just sort of fell out of the sky once I won. So along with getting followers and money, I got an epic ECU. Or not a rare ECU, I was using an epic ECU.
Man.
The way it works is that green is normal, blue gets you 1 special ability, purple gets you 2 special abilities, and now there's these yellow ones. These are new, relatively new, legendary. They've got 2 special abilities and a set bonus. If you can get the set bonus on all 7 parts for the vehicle, then you get a very good bonus, like twice as much nitro.
This is a very MMO naming scheme.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah. Well, you've also got more detailed settings. Some for all street race vehicles, some for this specific Porsche 911 GT3 RS. 2016 model.
Yeah.
Generally, you don't need to mess with those, but you can, and it does make a big difference, depending on what you want. Anyway, let's go to the wineries in Southern California. And yeah, you can just access the map, zoom out. Yeah, that's where I am.
Oh.
Near San Bernardino. But of course, it's kind of cheating to drive the best car for these street races, so I'm going to make things interesting and drive an Indian Scout. It's basically like a Harley Davidson, except for hipsters.
3, 2, 1.
This is... Oh, you're
Okay. That was Luttrell, by the way.
you're still blowing past them.
Yeah. But yeah, that was Luttrell who just said that. So there are characters in this game. It's just, you know, they're not the main point of playing. But yeah, so you've got this guy named Hero, who is your mechanic. So he sticks with you the whole time, even though he's kind of annoying.
Great.
And each of the disciplines has a fixer, someone who arranges the races for you. And in this case, it's Luttrell. Luttrell happens to be in a wheelchair. He doesn't really talk about it, but it's pretty obvious that he's in a wheelchair because one of his races went bad. And as such, he's very dedicated to the idea of taking street racing legitimate. So you'll hear him talking about that from time to time.
We can actually, like, does he appear in a cutscene? Is there actual interaction between?
There are some cutscenes, yeah. Plus he hangs out at the headquarters, you can see him there.
Ah.
And let's see. Oh yeah, also each discipline also has an ace. Someone that you will occasionally race against and who has, generally speaking, better performance and a better AI than the usual people you go up against. For street racing, it's Tio. And Tio's deal is that he's glad that street racing isn't legitimate because it means that he gets away with doing a lot of illegal stuff during races. Also, he's an asshole. But then most of the aces are assholes.
And Can't wait to beat these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to meet the aces and, see them take it down.
And once you reach 70% completion in a discipline, and that's fairly easy to do, you just need to do a majority of the events, and not even worry about any of the photographs or side event stuff. Oh man, look at that thing go. Anyway, once you hit 70% completion, you can take on the ace directly in a sort of winner-take-all event.
Ooh.
And if you do so, you get to do a special race against them, and then afterwards you get a vehicle associated with the discipline.
Heck yeah.
In the case of street racing, you get Tio's hypercar. Hypercar is one of the disciplines, by the way. There's 4 disciplines per... 4 event types per discipline. Anyway, so that was the wineries of Southern California we just blew past.
There's a lot of it.
By the way, the reason why you would want to take on the events at higher difficulties is because they give out more money, more followers. I'll show you what to do with followers later. And you get better parts. So more of the pink and yellow stuff.
Oh, look at that.
Well, that was fun. Alright, let's go do that third street race I've never done before. Coastal Range to LA. And by the way, these are not typical street races we're going on. Because usually street races are in cities and on a circuit. And now I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to take an antique out and go racing in it.
Okay, I'm ready for this. Oh, it's this thing.
Yep. Maybe they'll have a chance this time.
And... I mean... You can still... I'm guessing that this is gonna act kind of like a resto-man, and oh, that's a lot of sideways.
Yeah, this thing has no...
Going legit doesn't mean doing the speed limit. You know that, right?
Ah, shut up. But yeah, this thing does not have anything resembling traction control. So when I take a turn,
It's a boat.
I keep going the same direction that I was going to start the turn, you know?
Come on, you can do this. You can deal with this.
Yeah, I'm only in 8th place out of 8.
Look, it just means that the only way you have to go is up.
I'm only driving an old car with 4 gears. And they accurately model that, by the way. You can see the gear I'm in the lower left corner.
Ooh.
It's the number in the circle. Also down there, you're seeing my rev count, my miles per hour, and how much nitro I have.
There it is.
Every vehicle has nitro, by the way. Even the ones where it would be silly to have nitro. Like the Formula 1 cars.
Are there electric cars?
Well, there are hybrids. I'm not sure about a full electric.
Okay. Because I do remember Need for Speed Most Wanted did have a Tesla Roadster. And that had nitrous.
Yeah, you can put nitrous in the P51.
Oh, of course there's...
You don't even need to. Every vehicle comes with it. Like, it's not even a choice. You can always boost, no matter what you're driving.
can't wait to see you actually do a race in the P51.
Yeah. Well, air races run a little bit different than street races. I mean, that's one of the big things I like about this game, the sheer variety. For the most part, none of the racing types really feel like each other, even the ones that take place in automobiles. You know, I just had to pick the twistiest damn race to do in the Mustang.
Of course. It's just how you do.
I mean, you know that's not what they're for, right? Mustangs?
What? They turn on a dime, as evidenced in this video footage right here.
Yeah, no, I'll be going into it later in this video. But, muscle cars' turning radius was never really on their radar.
Hey, you were aiming for the quarter mile. It's always the quarter mile.
Mm-hmm. And there is a time and place for that too in this game, but just... oh dear.
Oh.
And I was doing so well too. Like I said, this is my first time on this racetrack. I have no idea what's coming up. Aside from looking at the radar, which is in the lower right-hand corner, by the way. The yellow dots are your checkpoints, which you can also see the giant flag in the sky ahead. And, of course, the white trails are all of the roads nearby. Interesting fact about that, by the way. There is no out of bounds in this game. Like, if it tells you that you are off the track, that is a warning for your sake, not because you're about to be disqualified.
Just... you're not gonna get through the...
So long as you hit...
oh.
Yeah, there it is, out of arena. I got way off track that time. But yeah, if you go out of arena, then it doesn't matter. All you have to do is hit the next checkpoint. If you do that, then the race continues.
But does it let you quit an event and then just keep on going from there?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
You can abort an event and you will be dropped off wherever you are on the map. Alright, I'm getting there now. But we're almost done with the, oh shit.
Oh. Oh, this is beautiful.
Yes, I am almost done with the race. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner. That's your current time since the event began, and your progress. So I am 95% complete.
I'm loving this. Like, I don't know, your driving seems to be pretty consistent, mostly.
Oh shit, there's the finish line. Come on.
There it is.
Oh, damn it.
Third.
Well, luckily you only need to get third. At least for the first difficulty level. The other two you do need to win. And even if you don't win, you do get a percentage of your winnings.
Oh, that's appreciated.
I mean, you're driving on a professional level, so you get paid no matter what. You just get paid less. Ooh, there we go. I got a new icon point. Now I can show you what to do with it.
Oh, man!
So, at the beginning, you start as a rookie, and then you move your way up through different titles until you become an icon. And once you become an icon, you can start spending icon points on all of this stuff. It's tiny benefits. Like you can see there, 0.4%, 0.1%, depending on what you want to do with it. And in most cases, you can only spend up to 25 in any one area. The exceptions being the 4 at the top there. So, as you can see, I've kind of got my preferences here, but if I pressed X, I can reset the category and have all my points to spend again.
Oh.
So I can shift them around if I want to do different types of races. Or get different benefits for them.
Well.
So I am not married to Hothead and Extreme mode. I can shift them both to Gifted and Perfectionist instead.
Ooh.
However, you can't move icon points around between the 3 categories you saw there. You just get one in each, and one after the other, like that. And I'm going back to the start of this race because I heard a beeping.
Oh, we had a beep.
Yeah, you can hear the beep, and you can see the radar flashing white.
Oh, it's doing the beep.
Yeah. And there's a wall. But if I follow those...
Of course.
If I follow the beeps, or the boops, then...
It's a beepy boop.
Eventually, they'll start to get closer together as I get closer to the target. You can hear that happening. But then it stops if you turn in the wrong direction. So this wants me to go off the road here, but there's no way to do that from this spot, unfortunately. So I'll just have to carry on around the corner here. Oh, there's a spot. There we go. Right, out into the vineyards.
Yeah. This is definitely appreciated. This world is huge, so having a tiny crutch, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yep. When it stops beeping, it's usually a good idea to make a 90-degree turn, because that's usually where to go next. And here's what I found! A live reward. But the kind of reward I get depends on the kind of vehicle I am currently in, so let's switch to my air race. So yes, your reward is a set of followers and a set of parts. Like between 2 and 4 normally. So I'm going to upgrade my P-51. And you can see that I am often upgrading away from rare parts, legendary parts. This is because the numbers are more important. But also, I happen to fulfill a live contract by doing that. Which means I can come in here and collect my CCs. Hooray.
Oh boy.
You can use CCs or Bitcoins to buy your cars. And buy upgrades for your cars. Or, well, not upgrades, but visual parts. Anyway, that was nice, but I think to fully get a feel for the street races, I should take you to one of the more normal ones. However, this one does have a cutscene attached.
Oh boy!
I should get out of my motorcycle here, and instead I'll pick the Camaro ZT1. It's not my standard, but it is a modern car.
Here I was thinking that you'd be picking out a sleeper for the sleeper.
Things they can just roll in.
Oh
and
no,
walk away with.
I'm not in the sleeper.
You race for pinks? We're gonna be walking, all right.
Now, this is what it's all about for some folks. Rides, people, party. Easy to see why going legit doesn't appeal. Gonna take some time to get more people to see it my way. Time I've got. Just look at those cars. There's some mighty fine rides lining up out there. But you know who I'm thinking our friends should be watching out for? That plain-looking one right there.
Huh? Doesn't look like much.
It doesn't have to if it's got the right kind of monster under the hood. And if you're not careful, that monster's gonna eat you up.
A Fiat 500.
Up Earth.
Yeah. But it's pretty much a Fiat 500 with luxury bits.
Yeah, luxury trim and I think some sort of tune. Oh, look at it go.
Yep. Looks like Travis is behind the wheel. And he just passed Janice.
And
That car's really moving.
Not compared to me, it ain't. Ha-ha!
oh! Oh man, we're in LA.
Yeah, welcome to the LA River. The tiny little bit of water in the middle of a giant-ass concrete...
Storm drain, I believe it's called.
Not exactly, but might as well be. You know, for the one time of the year when when Los Angeles actually gets rain. Because when LA gets rain, it gets all of the rain.
Well, I'm sure somebody better versed in geology than I could actually explain that.
Well, it's a desert. That's
It's a desert.
yeah.
Man.
So, in street races, there are often shortcuts, which are
Oh, of course.
yeah, directions you can go that are kind of off the beaten path that can get you where you want to go, either through a straighter line or a shorter path.
See, I bet that would cost them the Honda license for one.
Oh,
Yeah, because... Well, I don't know if it's still like that, but like, I think it was Need for Speed Underground 2 that actually had to cut out a whole lot of... Well, the ability to have shortcuts at all, just to appease Honda and get that S2000, or... I'm guessing it'd be the S2000, maybe the NSX.
well, that's kind of weird, but it might explain a few things, because guess what? There are no Hondas in this game.
There weren't in the original crew either, if I recall correctly.
I don't know, maybe they signed some sort of exclusivity license with one of the gaming companies. That might also explain it. But there are also no Toyotas. Like, pretty much every other major manufacturer does get represented, and here I'm taking the long way just to illustrate. Yeah, a much sharper turn there, by taking the normal route.
Ooh, look at that.
But yes, Honda and Toyota are conspicuous by their absence, but just about everybody else is in this game.
Hey, it did it.
Yay. Of course, it feels kind of like cheating because I beat it with a maxed out car. And even so, I am 20,000th in the world for this race. You can always look at the leaderboards by hitting the start button before the race ends.
That's a huge play race.
And that little flash there, by the way, is changing the time. Like, normally there's a universal time inside the game, but certain races have specific times attached to them. Like in this case, it was in the evening while after a rain are the conditions. Anyway, I think that's enough racing and explaining how the game works for today, so I'm going back home.
Yeah.
Taking another look around. And I'm gonna go make myself a sandwich.
Oh man, a sandwich.
See you next time.
Where's the bread at?
A new game comes with a new set of corners. Since this game is all about cars and motorsports, the same will be true for the movies I'll review. To make things diverse, I'll be looking at 4 types of movie. First, films about motorsports. The Crew 2 has a diverse list, so pretty much any sport with an engine involved is fair game. Second, films with iconic vehicles in it. Not just iconic vehicles that happen to be in a movie, I mean movies that make that vehicle iconic. Third, road trip movies. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Fourth, films that feature an extended chase scene. The more legendary and time-consuming the chase, the better. And remember, I am accepting requests through Patreon. But for today at least, I'll be looking at a movie of my own choosing, a little something called Bullitt. This 1968 film has one of the best chase scenes in cinema history, and it features a first-generation Ford Mustang, making it a good example of what to expect ahead. The story about the story. I have heard Bullitt referred to as the first true Hollywood action movie, and I think that might be right. However, you should understand that when people say this, they are being very specific about what an action movie is. Hollywood movies have featured shootouts, hand-to-hand combat, and car chases before, and they've made films that you could call thrillers or westerns or crime dramas. However, until the late 1960s, filmmakers couldn't go quite as far as they wanted to. Let me just give you the brief version. In the late 1920s, the first movies with synchronized audio came out. These talkies meant that audiences could hear screen actors speak for the very first time, and as a result, the movie industry boomed. That in turn got the industry the attention of Christian family values groups, who were upset by the violence and the lack of morality portrayed in the popular gangster movies of the time. By the 1930s, the Great Depression was in full swing, and the movie industry could not afford a major boycott or government attention. So to avoid outside censorship, the big studios got together and created the Hollywood Production Code. The Production Code laid out a few things that films would not be allowed to portray. The list included prostitution, too much exposed skin on a woman, gambling, drug use of any kind, unpunished murders, and so on. The studios then got to work subverting the code as much and as often as they could. I went into depth about this subversion during my LA Noire Let's Play, so I'll only say now that the Hollywood Production Code slowly died in the late 50s and early 60s. By the time Bullitt was in production, nobody was using it, and a few months after it came out, the MPAA created the rating system that we still use for movies to this day. This meant that Bullitt's filmmakers were free to do whatever they wanted for the movie, and by the late 1960s, they had the technology and budget to do it too. It all started with a novel, a crime thriller, called Mute Witness, written by Robert L. Fish under the pseudonym Robert L. Pike. Such a creative fake name, isn't it? The scriptwriters Alan Trustman and Harry Kleiner adapted the story for the big screen, and Trustman is notable for being a successful lawyer when he wasn't writing scripts. Because of Trustman, the procedural aspect of the movie is more accurate than usual for Hollywood. And as it turns out, he was also good at writing for the lead actor, Steve McQueen. The other movie where he proves this is The Thomas Crown Affair. Aside from being the lead actor, Steve McQueen was also one of the driving forces behind the movie Bullitt. McQueen's company, Solar Productions, was responsible for the film, although Warner Brothers provided most of the money and all of the distribution. McQueen hired Peter Yates to fill the director's seat, Yates having made a UK film called Robbery in 1967. Robbery isn't a big film, then or now, but it had a good car chase, and that's what McQueen was looking for. McQueen's main co-stars would be Robert Vaughn as politician Walter Chalmers, and Jacqueline Bisset as Kathy. Vaughn was best known at that point for playing the lead role in the TV spy series The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but Bisset was a newcomer at the time, who got her first leading role just 1 year earlier. Bullitt was made on a budget of $4 million, and they spent most of that money by shooting on location whenever possible rather than on sets, and hiring a big crew to handle the film's car and foot chases. They also got a pair of 1968 Ford Mustang GT Fastbacks on loan from Ford as a promotion for the then new Mustang sports car. The bad guy's car was originally supposed to be the Ford Galaxy, a full-size sedan, but the big sedan didn't jump over the San Francisco hills the way the director wanted, so he replaced it with the Dodge Charger, a coupe and a competitor to the Ford Mustang. Bullitt would turn that $4 million budget into $42.3 million at the box office, making the film one of the top grossing movies of the year behind The Odd Couple, The Love Bug, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like most action movies, Bullitt didn't get any acting awards, but it did get a well-deserved Oscar for editing, and an Edgar Allan Poe Award for the screenplay. And to this day, Bullitt's car chase is considered one of the best ever filmed. And that leads me to the story. As the opening credits roll, we see several men break into an office in Chicago, owned by a couple of men named Ross. Then there's a shootout and someone escapes in a car. Then one of the intruders picks up a phone and clears things up. Pete Ross has put out a hit on his brother, Johnny, but Johnny got away. Time passes, and in San Francisco, a man named Del Getty goes to wake up Lieutenant Frank Bullitt for work. Frank had a rough night, but he has to meet Senator Walter Chalmers for an early meeting. Chalmers wants to expose a crime syndicate that he only calls the Organization, but he needs a star witness Johnny Ross to be alive to testify before a Senate subcommittee. Ross has turned state evidence because he funneled $2 million away from the Organization, and they found out about it. Chalmers is hiding him in San Francisco since it's relatively safe, and he asks Bullitt to watch him for the next 40 hours. So that's our setup. Bullitt and his team, Del Getty and Stanton, go to the specified hotel room and meet with Johnny Ross. Things seem quiet, so Bullitt goes out for dinner with his girlfriend, Kathy. However, that night, 2 men burst into the hotel room with a shotgun. They shoot Stanton in the knee, and they shoot Ross in the shoulder. Neither man dies, so Bullitt has Del Getty follow Ross and gets a description of the attackers from Stanton. Aside from the description, Stanton mentions that Ross unfastened the chain on the door, like he wasn't expecting an ambush. At the hospital, Bullitt learns that Stanton will be alright, but Ross is less certain. Senator Chalmers shows up at the hospital later, and he is not happy. Bullitt refuses to take his shit, but Chalmers promises to destroy his career if Ross can't deliver a deposition before the Senate hearing begins. One of the hitmen enters the hospital to finish the job, but a nurse spots him pulling out a knife, and Bullitt chases him into the hospital basement. The hitman gets away, but then Ross dies anyway in the ICU. Bullitt is suspicious of Chalmers since the hitman used his name to get into the hotel, so he has the doctor misplace Ross's chart and sends him to the coroner as a John Doe. Chalmers is understandably upset when he comes in the next morning and finds an empty hospital room, and he calls Bullitt, who only tells him that he's hidden Ross away. Bullitt then goes out to investigate the crime scene, question witnesses, and eventually he tracks down a cabbie who picked up Ross from a much nicer hotel. He then speaks with an informant who says the mob is still looking for Ross as if they don't know that he's been shot. We're an hour into the movie, and so now it's time for the famous chase scene to begin. When he's done with the cabbie, Bullitt realizes he's being tailed by 2 men in a Charger. He evades them in the hilly streets of San Francisco and starts tailing them. And then a high-speed pursuit begins. Incidentally, Steve McQueen was a good enough driver to film his own close-up shots, but most of the high-speed driving was performed by stunt doubles. The chase proceeds into the city's outskirts, where they really start to speed up, and when they reach the highway, they go flat out. Eventually, the 2 hitmen, that's who they are by the way, start firing at Bullitt, but he forces them off the road and the Charger explodes when it hits a gas station. The 2 men die in the fire. Bullitt goes to the captain after this and explains everything that happened. The dead men are no help, but Bullitt still has one lead. Before his death, Ross called a woman named Dorothy Simmons, who was staying in a hotel in San Mateo. Bullitt's Mustang got trashed during the chase, so he gets a ride to San Mateo in his girlfriend's Porsche 356 convertible. So when Bullitt calls for backup, Kathy follows them and sees Dorothy's strangled corpse on the hotel floor. Bullitt gets her out of there, but Kathy is upset, since she never realized how awful police work can be, and she's worried about how calm he is about it. Bullitt gets back to work, looking through Dorothy's luggage, and he discovers that some of her clothes were for a man. He and his team piece together that she was about to go on a European trip, but she has no passports and no plane tickets. However, she does have traveler's checks for Dorothy and Albert Rennick. On a hunch, Bullitt pulls up Albert's passport application and gets fingerprints from Ross's corpse. Sure enough, they match. The real Johnny Ross paid Albert to take his place, and then killed him and his wife to leave no witnesses. Turns out, Ross never had any intention of testifying before the Senate. Ross is using Albert's name and passport to go to Rome, and Bullitt and Delgetti get to the airport just in time to intercept him. Ross makes a last-minute switch to a plane headed for London, but Bullitt figures it out and gets the plane to head back to the terminal. Ross jumps out of the plane and runs for it, so Bullitt goes after him. There's some shooting, a chase around moving airplanes, and then Ross makes it back into the terminal. Eventually, Bullitt shoots Ross dead in the main entrance. The last scene is Bullitt going home to see Kathy sleeping in his bed. He seems shaken by what he just did, and the last shot of the movie is of the ammo clip on Bullitt's gun harness. The cars. Bullitt is worth analyzing as a movie, but for this video series I'll be doing something different for the third segment. I'll be looking at motor vehicles, the history, the technology, the models, the people. And since Bullitt is so famous for its car chase with a Ford Mustang, I think today I'll start with a little history and discuss the rise and fall of the muscle car era. The first thing I should do is explain what exactly a muscle car is. The name basically explains it, but to be precise, the term muscle car refers to American-made cars that have a lot more horsepower than they really need. If you want to be really precise, muscle cars should also be two-door coupes, have rear-wheel drive, and be at least a mid-size model. I imagine at least a few of you are already lost, so I promise I'll dedicate the next segment to defining terms. But for now, let's continue. The roots of American muscle date back to the 1920s. Alcohol was illegal to manufacture and sell according to the 18th Amendment, but that didn't stop bootleggers from bringing booze into the United States from Canada, Mexico, and the wilderness of the Appalachian Mountains. Some smuggled it in using hidden compartments, some bribed the cops who checked them, but a few bootleggers would just tune up their cars and outrun the police in a car chase. Pretty soon, people started tuning their cars for fun, just to see how fast they could go, and they competed with each other in drag races. More on that later. However, muscle cars didn't quite exist yet. You had hot rods, but hot rods are custom-tuned cars, and muscle cars come straight from the manufacturer. That's why the first muscle car only came out in 1949, during the post-war boom of the US economy. Muscle cars evolved from existing American car designs, so it's hard to say exactly where and how it started. Still, the model most often cited as the first official muscle car is the 1949 Oldsmobile Rocket 88. The 88 was offered as a two-door coupe or a four-door sedan, and the rocket in the name referred to the engine, a 5-liter monster with 8 cylinders that could get an amazing 135 horsepower. For reference, the Toyota Corolla, a compact car designed to be more affordable than anything else, has a 1.8-liter engine with 4 cylinders that produces 132 horsepower. Still, in 1949, 135 horsepower was a lot. So, about drag racing. A drag race is when you start from a full stop and race in a straight line to the finish. Whoever gets there first wins. In the 1940s and 50s, this was the most popular form of street racing in America, in part because it was simple to set up, didn't take long, and you usually didn't have to worry about traffic. So it shouldn't be surprising that American performance cars emphasized power, acceleration, and style. What they did not emphasize was the ability to turn a corner without rolling over. The golden age of muscle cars came in the 1960s. A lot of famous American cars were born during this period. The Pontiac Tempest, the Ford Mustang, the Dodge Charger and Challenger, the Plymouth Barracuda and Firebird, and the Chevy Camaro. The competition for horsepower became fierce, and while 135 horsepower was a lot in 1949, 15 years later, in 1964, you could get a production car that delivered 420 horsepower. The engine in Bullitt's 1968 Mustang GT produced up to 325 horsepower. Speaking of the Mustang, there's something unique about it. From 1964 to today, Ford has always produced a new Mustang for every model year. I don't think there are any muscle cars from the original Golden Age that can say the same thing. Either the company died, the model stopped selling, or the manufacturer just decided to go in a different direction. The big crash in the muscle car market came in the early 70s. The American government was becoming more concerned with environmentalism. They were passing strict regulations on things like safety features and leaded gasoline. OPEC caused the first big oil crisis in 1973, and suddenly both the government and the American people became really concerned about fuel efficiency. Those big muscle cars with their big, inefficient engines weren't selling anymore, and those that tried suffered a big drop in power thanks to new government regulations. Performance cars would make a comeback in America in the 1980s thanks to new technology and no more oil crises, but the market for muscle has never been the same. Partly it's the Japanese manufacturers, who carved out a big piece of the US market when Americans wanted efficient cars. Partly it's the fact that driving becomes less fun when you have to spend half your life on the road commuting to work and running errands. Partly it's because today's cars are a lot more reliable than they used to be, so tinkering with engines is more of a hobby and less of a requirement of ownership. And partly it's because apparently every American wants to own a truck or an SUV these days. Still, American muscle isn't completely dead. The Ford Mustang is alive and well, as I mentioned, and the Shelby company is still making high-performance trims for it. Dodge has come out with new versions of the old Challenger and Charger models, and in 2018, they produced the Challenger SRT Demon. The Demon is specifically designed for drag racing, and has an engine that generates up to 840 horsepower. Outside of the supercar class, that's a lot for a production model. As for Chevrolet, the Camaro is still around, and it got a new design in 2016. So muscle cars aren't dead, but they have atrophied a bit. Thanks for joining me for today's Movie and Motor Corner, and I hope I'll see you next time for an older movie about scoring points for hitting pedestrians.